Call of Duty Black Ops 2. We're on Xbox Series X. The game does have an improved resolution, it's got an improved FPS, and it's got HDR support that looks absolutely fantastic. So this game is split across a number of modes, as in all the Call of Duty games are. You know, we've got the campaign, which we're doing right now, and then we've also got the multiplayer, which I know quite a lot of people like, a bit of a futuristic one. And then on top of that, we've got the zombies mode, which is kind of, you know, exciting and intense. So we're going to be starting off by kind of showing off the campaign aspect of the game with a bit of a cinematic segment, and also something that I don't think is too spoilerish in regards to what the actual gameplay is like. As in all of the Call of Duty games, this is something that is very, you know, kind of cinematically focused, big action sequences. But this one's a little bit different because it plays around with the past and also the future. It's kind of interesting because I guess it was a semi-future at the time, and we're actually kind of getting really close to that time period now, which is kind of interesting to think about, but I don't think our technology is quite where it was in this game. Well, it's pretty close. That aside, it's a very interesting entry within the series. I think it's got some really iconic characters that might be familiar to you if you've played the Black Ops games. And again, a little bit of the Mason family, which is kind of fun to see in action. It's just got like a neat mix of, again, historical segments, and then of course these more intense futuristic type scenarios, which are kind of fun. A great variety of combat and action, and we're going to be doing a pretty cool gliding in segment here, which is kind of a lot of fun. Jump off the cliff. But yeah, it's just kind of, it's got that action, that intensity, those fast moving kind of areas, and it's really interesting to see the upgrade in comparison to what the 1X was able to provide. I think it's kind of interesting, and it's actually recording perfectly fine on the 1X. I had a lot of issues getting this one going, so that's kind of excellent. But yeah, this really is a stellar way to experience the Black Ops 2 campaign, which is kind of, I think, rather interesting, you know, and it's of course something that's quite dark, and it's got a neat, you know, kind of premise in regards to this individual that I guess you could say builds a bit of a following, which is still a concept that you could see even today being a thing, and kind of playing off of that aspect while also digging deep into the heritage of what made this character. And I think those different perspectives actually makes for a very unique sort of story. And as you can see, very intense cinematic focus here, because we haven't even really gotten into an actual, you know, combat scenario yet. We've just kind of been going through these sort of almost cutscene-esque areas, but it just looks really sharp. The range is like pouring down. It's crazy. The character models are like quite fantastic even today. It's very interesting. Ooh, looks like they got a bit of an invis going on there. So we're basically just starting off by giving a little context to the game, showing off the campaign, and then of course later on splitting off into the different segments, which I think is kind of fun. Again, you know, campaign's kind of interesting, kind of dynamic, and it definitely plays around with the times in an interesting way. I don't know if it's necessarily my favorite narrative, but I definitely like some of the locations and the set pieces that they have here, especially when they play around with, you know, the futuristic, you know, settings and stuff. I think that really does add a lot of character to this one, because, you know, there's so many different Call of Duty games, and they've gone even more futuristic since, and, you know, there's just been so many entries within the franchise, so it's kind of hard to be a unique entry, if you get what I mean, because we've seen so many different takes on different eras with different types of weapons. And this is when things started to get a little bit more, I guess, intense with the futuristic stuff. Like, I still thought this was grounded well enough in the realms of being something, you know, semi-realistic, and then it just starts getting a little crazy, and then they wound it back in a little, well, reeled it in a little bit later on, which I thought was really good. But yeah, generally just quite impressed by this, the way it's running so smoothly, and again, looking better from a visual standpoint. I mean, this looks really, really sleek and impressive. I'm actually just blown away by their efforts on this one. This is really nice little boost to the game. I'm actually able to see that guy through that wall. That's pretty cool. And then, of course, you get all these different weapon types, which are kind of fun, too. And this is a weird one. I don't know if I like that too much. Maybe we should switch to a different weapon. Oh, I got the Invis guy. It's kind of crazy. So the story segments, it's kind of also maybe a little jarring to some folks because you go from, I guess you could say, like, really almost basic weaponry to, like, insane futuristic stuff. But it's still, like, firmly a boots-on-the-ground focused experience, which I think is kind of important for feeling more like the classic Call of Duty games. You know, aside from when you're gliding downwards and rappelling and stuff like that, but you get what I mean combat-wise. It's very much a traditional Call of Duty game before things started getting really quite wild. Where are we getting blasted from? With these great set pieces, tense over-the-top action, and just kind of, I guess you could say, a number of memorable moments, especially in regards to how certain characters are handled. I think it's definitely going to be surprising if you've played the previous one and you want to jump in here. Like with all the other Call of Duty games, this is kind of still standalone. You can jump in here as your first foray into the Black Ops games, and you won't necessarily feel like you don't know what you're doing. You can still clearly engage with the action and have a good time, which I think is important for telling an interesting and perhaps compelling sort of narrative experience. These turrets are going to be the absolute end of me. I'm just like really amazed at the visual quality of this area. I'm genuinely kind of shocked by what it presents. It's like really quite gripping and feels large in scale, and then you've got like these crazy backdrops. And I'm just trying to think of how old this game and how many Call of Duty games have come since, and it's like it's sort of really damn impressive. I'm shocked. Really am, because it looks so good on this platform. I'm actually just blown away by it. But I think with that, it's probably a good time to switch over to the multiplayer part of the game. So you can still find people when you're playing in the multiplayer, so that's fantastic. Even at a pretty late hour at night, and if you took a look at the video where I showed off the first Black Ops, you'll be pleasantly surprised by the intense upgrades when we jump into Nuketown of the future. Woo! Yeah, it's kind of fun, but then you get like 3 or 4 more Nuketowns in the games that follow, and it kind of gets a little old. That aside, it's an interesting multiplayer because it has this, futuristic style to it while still feeling like a traditional entry in the series, which is kind of cool. You get all these futuristic weapons, and this is where they started adding in that, kind of DLC microtransactions element. But at the time, they actually were microtransactions, which is kind of cool. I've got this kind of special cybernetic skin. I actually paid for this back in the day. I like it. It looks cool. So the HDR really makes it actually pop, which is super cool. But yeah, I mean, they've got a great selection of maps here, tons of different modes, if you can find players playing them. It was just kind of a really expansive multiplayer offering that was kind of fun and fast-paced. I know tons of people still like to play this. I hear it mentioned all the time by folks, which makes complete sense. It's also like, I think, the only Call of Duty where I went and got a silly reticle going on, which is kind of a little out of character for me, needless to say. Ooh, with that, you also got a cool selection of basically sleek UI and customizing your classes and weapons and then your kill streaks, having that futuristic sense while still being balanced firmly with some more traditionally grounded types of options, which is kind of cool. Where was that from? Oh, it was the chopper gunner up in the air. Some of those choppers are crazy. Or was it the drone? That's interesting to think about. Yeah, I hope this is kind of showing off what the conflict's like a little bit. We're not exactly doing too well as a team, it looks like. Yeah, I'm not doing too well. That's for sure. It is Nuketown, but it's got a great variety of different tools you can use as well, and aside from just like straight up guns. And then adding in, you got a custom clan tag, which is kind of cool. I think this one's got like my YouTube on it, which is kind of funny. You can have the custom on there. I think you see it on the gun, kind of, but the Peacekeeper titling sort of gets in the way of it, which is a little annoying, I guess you could say. And the clan tag, it's just like a lot of like little customization elements that were carried forward in this one and done in an interesting way. Not the connection interrupted. Oh, that's the worst. Look at this. Okay, so the lobby kept together and we ended up playing on the exact same match. So that's a little less thrilling than I would have thought. I was hoping for a different option, but at least the players kept together so that we could keep playing, which is fantastic. But yeah, it feels really good. What a camping little guy all the way back there. It does really feel great and fluid and snappy playing the multiplayer here. I'm thoroughly impressed by it. I mean, it definitely does hold up as being an interesting experience. And I think I played a fair bit of this. I don't know what prestige I am specifically, but I don't think I was as into it as the earlier Call of Duties. I kept getting less and less captured by the experience. Is that shuffleboard back there? Totally a shuffleboard. But they got a pretty good selection of maps, I think, in this game, too. I was fairly impressed by that, and I think that the DLC options, too, were kind of fun to engage in. You just think of the different Call of Duties over time and all the different maps you've played. I think they had fun with the, the futuristic style of it. I think it definitely leaned into that while still being something that felt like a traditional Call of Duty, and I think I mentioned that in the campaign too. It didn't, move away too far from the entries in the series that came before it, while at the same time doing some newer things. And I think that's maybe why a lot of people like this one, is the sense that it, feels classic, but at the same time is a little bit newer, so that's kind of cool. Oh, I totally botched that. I could have had I don't know if it was a Predator drone or a UAV or something, but I could have had a kill streak going on, which would have been nice. But yeah, even like Nuketown here, while it's the exact same map, they do play around with things really nicely. How does that guy know where I am? I think he's modding. I don't want to say that they're cheating, but to me that kind of looked like that guy was cheating or something. I know I might be crazy, but yeah, that was a little bit of a wild auto lock on. Yeah, that guy is totally cheating. I'll have to put in a report on that, even though I don't think they necessarily care these days or monitor it. But yeah, just because I feel better about doing so. Still, that aside, it's pretty fun. It's an engaging one in the series, and definitely something a little unique. I think if you get different modes, like I like Demolition. I'm not sure if you can still find players in it. I have no real idea. But the fact that you can find players in Deathmatch, I think, kind of leads way for there possibly being other modes, because this one was pretty snappy in regards to how quickly I came across other people, which is a good thing to have. See, that guy drives me crazy because it's like, what is the fun in doing that? You know what I mean? Like, I really don't see why that would be exciting to play this old game and kind of ruin it for others. It's a little bit weird. Yeah, but still a pretty good time. I mean, you can play it with bots too offline if you don't necessarily want to play with others online. So I think that's kind of good as well. And just lots of customization, personalization, and different ways to engage with others online. And still, to this day being available for you to jump in. Customizing classes, perks, different abilities, tools, and having that slight futuristic edge to it, which is kind of fun, that's for sure. I can actually get this guy here. Oh, he's dead anyway, so that's less fun. But we're still surprisingly taking it to him, despite that guy, cheating, which is exactly what he's doing. He's a complete cheater, that's for sure. But we're still doing well and having a good time with it. I think we actually might finish this match off because we only need, I think, one more for the victory. There we go. So this is the zombies mode in the game. So this is when zombies started to get a little bit weird, a little bit focusing on the story, a bit too much in my opinion, and a lot of the maps were a little bit strange when it came to kind of playing and competing. That being said, it did actually have some really cool levels. I mean, I really quite enjoyed Buried. That's why we're checking this one out because it's got like a bit of I guess you could say Western town vibe to it, which is pretty cool. You get here, it's like an abandoned kind of ghost town. I really like the design and the look of this one. It's just kind of fun, but they were like zombies coming out of the ground and stuff like that were a little bit hardcore. That being said, it is way better than, I guess, like Die Rise, which is like in Skyscrapers. I thought that one was awful. Even the Green Run, not a huge fan of that one. But they also had neat things like building stuff too. You could like put together parts and that. So I thought that was an interesting addition. Not sure if I was a huge fan of doing that, but it's kind of a neat mix-up. And then you also got things such as, I'm just trying to think of the different maps that were like part of this. They all blend together over the years. Alcatraz was really cool. I quite liked that one, especially getting off to like the bridge and all that. And the cast they had picked, I thought that was very, very well done. Very cool. Yeah, interesting selection of maps here. I don't know if it was huge hit or miss, but it wasn't necessarily totally my sort of thing. Where are the zombies at? This is what I get. I accidentally fell basically in here faster than I would have liked to be getting to this spot, because then you get all these zombies that are kind of like, I guess you could say, lagging behind or something. There we go. They shoot you dead just to kind of get the round going by, am I right? Jeez. But yeah, it's very much your typical zombies, trying to survive, trying to battle, working together. You can play it in solo, which is what I'm doing now, where you play it in multiplayer. So they also had some cool kind of changes for this too, in regards to how you're playing with others. So there were actually competitive modes present within this. So you could do like kind of two teams competing while zombies were playing, and you could like kind of interact and cause troubles for the other team. I'm trying to think of what it was called. It had a really like sort of cheeky name to it that I was trying to think of, but yeah, kind of just like a fun little bothersome mode where you're messing with each other. I thought that was kind of entertaining. Good selection of, you know, weapons and stuff in this one too. I'm surprised I'm out of ammo. Because usually I do like a shoot and then I stab because you get more like points in the earlier rounds, but yeah, I guess we'll kind of just keep whirling through it. I mean, I am by myself too, which is a little bit different, but not too bad. I'm trying to look and see if I missed any of the maps on this one. And they do mix up the Green Run quite a bit. Like, I think that one's interesting. I didn't really like the cast of it, but it's like neat because you're moving on this bus basically to different towns and fighting off in those towns. And there's like secret areas you can kind of go to. That was kind of neat, I guess you could say. Definitely something a little bit different. Oh yeah, and then there's the classic Nuketown zombies. I kind of want to show off a little bit of that one because that was really good. I think it was like a DLC special thing or pre-order or something like that, but that was a really good zombies map. I think that was one of my favorites actually in the series. It was kind of really well done. I like this one. I don't know if I ever finished the actual story in Buried. I think I got pretty close, but you know, people always tend to kind of mess up or die and then the team falls apart after you spend hours kind of battling, right? You just kind of get tired of it. I think this one also was like one of the first to have like a banking system too, which was kind of cool. Definitely a little bit different. I just love the vibe though of this. It's just so distinctly interesting and cool looking. Like you go over there and I think there's like a maze behind that area too. It just feels really large in scope, but yeah, I'm gonna switch over to the Nuketown zombies because I think that one would be really neat to show off. I'm gonna blast that lady away too. And as I hope you're seeing here, it just kind of loads almost instantly right away. You get right into the cinematic segment. I think maybe this one doesn't have a cinematic segment, but it just loads you right into the game, which is kind of crazy. We have a black screen, but yeah, no waiting times. Kind of nuts, kind of wild, but this was a fun twist on Nuketown because, you know, we can't get enough of Nuketown. Yeah, can't escape it. But seriously though, the zombies works really well here. You get some good lanes, you get some kind of intense action. It's really fun, especially if you can find other players to join in with. I think it's kind of exciting. It's got like a cool atmosphere, all the little fog and stuff like that. Looks kind of crazy, and it definitely holds up very well. I also forgot to mention, I think this was the last map, but it's basically like a giant, can't think of the name of it, but it's like a huge old school World War area where it's like giant trenches that are dug up, and there's like big machines and stuff like that. It was a little weird, and I think it kind of, you're trying to get special staffs, and it really kind of set the stage for playing around with the timelines of zombies, and I think that was where they started to really lose me, was when they did that kind of thing. Just wasn't necessarily what I was too interested in, quite honestly, which is a little disappointing, because I still do love zombies, and I hope that I can get into zombies again in future entries. I mean, we got another kind of Black Ops coming, right? So, well, at least at the time of filming this, and hopefully that one is interesting in that regard. And the box is over that way. I don't know, there's just something really eerie and cool about this one. I like the Nuketown style, because it feels like, well, obviously, I think the nuke did go off, is the point of that, but I think you're supposed to bomb the town, not behind the town. See, like, the effects of a nuke. Well, the contamination's going over. I'm sure there's some sort of convoluted lore thing that goes with it. And then the lore got removed because they did timeline switches or something. I don't know. Way too much. Anyways, pretty cool zombies. Cool situation. Definitely a vibe and environment, that's for sure. And a lot of fun to play. I think that's generally the gist of what I have to say about the whole game in general. Black Ops 2, quite a bit of content to it. You know, it's an engaging time, whether you're killing zombies, battling through the campaign, through multiple perspectives in time, and connections that kind of bridge together the generations of characters there. Then, of course, you know, you've got the multiplayer component to it, which is still kind of a bit of fun. Oh, that looks really cool over there. You know, aside from certain individuals that might ruin the fun, but it's still a pretty good time. You know, you got a lot of different ways you can compete, lots of modes. It's a very polished edition, lots of different customization options. That was fun. And of course, rolling back around to this zombies mode. Decent selection of maps. Maybe not for everyone in terms of the style of them, but I'm sure there's a lot of people that do really quite like what they did with the zombies modes. And I mean, it's really going to be up to what kind of style of zombies you're wanting to play, and if you can get friends together for co-op, because that's kind of the charm of zombies. It's not necessarily playing alone, but grabbing your friends and having a good zombies night, which is something I still like to do with my friends. So you kind of pick and choose different, you know, entries in the series of what you want to play, and I think that's kind of magical that you can still enjoy them to this day. I think that's really cool. Anyways, Black Ops 2.